Blasts rock flooded Texas chemical plant after floods. 15 Texas police officers were temporarily hospitalized on Thursday after they investigated explosions at a plant near Houston. Fears of an explosion at a storm-ravaged Crosby, Texas chemical facility prompted the evacuation of 300 people from the area earlier this week. Blasts were heard at the facility on Thursday. The Arkema Group anticipated an explosion after flooding from Hurricane Harvey had cut power to their chemical cooling and emergency systems. The chemical plant makes organic peroxides, a compound found in commonplace everyday items. Some of the substances are volatile and will catch fire if they aren't refrigerated. Officials warn that more explosions and fires are expected at the 49-year-old site. Here's 4 more explosive stories from the team at TomoNews. Lawyer, pants on fire! A Miami lawyer couldn't have sent a clearer message for the jury not to believe him than having his pants literally burst into flames during an arson trial. Stephen Gutierrez had been fiddling with something in his pocket right before arguing that his client's car wasn't intentionally set on fire, but instead spontaneously combusted. As if right on cue, smoke began billowing out of the lawyer's pants pocket, prompting him to run out of the courtroom. The fire in his pants was caused by his e-cigarette batteries, or so Gutierrez claims. He says he ran to the bathroom and chucked the little hot rods into water before they could do any more damage. When he got back to the courtroom, Gutierrez swore up and down that the incident wasn't staged, but the judge was not pleased. Neither were the jurors, apparently, since the client ended up being convicted of second-degree arson anyway. Samsung's Big Bang Theory. The Galaxy Note 7 is probably Samsung's most famous model, not for its design or specs, but for its notorious tendency to spontaneously combust. After 2 recalls that cost the brand at least $5 billion, the South Korean phone giant has finally revealed where exactly it all went wrong. Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 was fitted with 3,500 milliampere lithium-ion batteries, which should have enough space to allow negative electrodes to remain straight. However, those manufactured by a company subsidiary were found to have deflected negative electrodes, which caused the batteries to overheat and explode. As a result, Samsung recalled and reissued all Galaxy Note 7 phones in September. Replacement batteries made by a Hong Kong-based affiliate were likewise defective. Welding burrs penetrated through the separator and insulation tape, causing negative electrodes to be in direct contact with the positive tab. In some cases, batteries were missing the insulation tape altogether. Both factors were linked to the phone overheating and potentially catching fire. Samsung ultimately canceled production of the smartphone model and has had to reassess existing safety measures. The company has announced the implementation of a new 8-point battery safety check that's meant to reassure consumers that safety is now a top priority. Oh, the humanity. These words were used to describe the downing of the Hindenburg airship in New Jersey on May 6, 1937. And this event marked the beginning of the end of airship travel.
Sails over New York. These pictures, made from a Pathé News plane less than 4 hours before the tragedy, show the world's largest airship heading for Lakehurst, New Jersey. Over Newark's famous auto skyway, the airship was hailed by thousands who little dreamed it was their final glimpse of the Hindenburg.
In the early 1900s, rigid airships, also known as dirigibles or zeppelins, were hailed as the transportation method of the future. The skies were dominated by airships, the most famous of which was the Hindenburg LZ-129. The Hindenburg was a 245-meter-long conventional zeppelin that had a maximum speed of 135 kilometers per hour and a cruising speed of 126 kilometers per hour. In 1936, the Hindenburg inaugurated commercial air service across the North Atlantic by carrying over 1,000 passengers on 10 scheduled round trips between Germany and the United States. Though it was designed to be filled with helium gas, the airship was filled with highly flammable hydrogen instead. This was due to the fact that the U.S. held a monopoly on helium reserves and had restricted export of the element to Nazi Germany. Airships were designed to accommodate hundreds of passengers who could enjoy onboard facilities such as a bar, dining areas, and even a smoking lounge. In order to meet the ship's weight requirement, all of the furnishings were made as light as possible. Even cabin beds were made of aluminum. A lightweight baby grand piano had been created for the vessel, although it was not on board during the Hindenburg's last voyage. For its 63rd flight, the ship left the Frankfurt airfield at 7:16 p.m. and flew over Cologne before crossing the Netherlands, the English Channel, and out over the Atlantic before reaching the United States. On May 6, 1937, headwinds delayed the airship's journey, and its scheduled arrival in Lakehurst, New Jersey at 6 a.m. was postponed to 6 p.m. In the meantime, the captain decided to take the passengers on a scenic tour. By noon, the ship had reached Boston, and by 3 p.m., the Hindenburg was sailing past the skyscrapers of Manhattan. Reports said the large vessel flying past the city created such a sight that people ran out into the streets to see it. When the aircraft was finally cleared to land, it returned to Lakehurst, approaching the field shortly after 7 p.m. at an altitude of approximately 600 feet. The captain initiated a wide left turn to fly in a descending pattern around the north and west of the field so as to line up for a landing into the wind to the east. During the landing, hydrogen was valved and 3 drops of water ballast were ordered in an attempt to keep the ship in level trim. When these efforts failed to level the vessel, 6 crewmen were ordered to go forward in the ship to add their weight to the bow. The vessel was set to make a high-altitude landing, which meant dropping an anchor from a greater height than it normally would be. This required fewer ground crew members, but the process would take longer. In an attempt to land quickly, the captain reportedly executed a tight S-turn to change the direction of the ship's landing. This was when things went wrong. Some experts later theorized that this sharp turn overstressed the ship, causing a bracing wire to snap and slash a gas cell. This allowed hydrogen to mix with air to form a highly explosive combination. Witnesses claim they saw a flutter on top of the airship, which indicated gas leaking from the vessel. A fire soon broke out, although accounts of where it started varied. The flames reportedly quickly burned through the logo on the side of the ship before consuming the rest of the vessel. Journalist Herbert Morrison was at the scene doing a recorded radio segment, and his horrified account of the event became one of the most famous pieces of broadcast in American history.
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my. Get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. It's smoke and it's flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it. I told you, I can't even talk to people. There's friends around there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside while I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost the voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed.
In the end, 36 people died, but a remarkable number of people survived. The owner of the Hindenburg initially suspected someone had damaged the ship in an act of anti-Nazi sabotage. However, experts later theorized that a difference in electric potential between the ship and the surrounding air most likely caused a spark, which led to the fire. Faith in the industry plummeted following the Hindenburg disaster. The event was captured in numerous photographs and in footage, which was broadcast across the globe. The airship industry never recovered. However, dirigibles were losing public favor even prior to the Hindenburg's downing. 3 months before the Hindenburg first took flight, Pan American Airways M130 China Clipper made its first scheduled flight across the Pacific. Between the high cost of infrastructure and crew, safety issues, and competition with better technology, passenger airships may have been on their way out even before the Hindenburg disaster took place.
It was probably a good idea to stop firing nukes into space. Decades after they exploded in space, the true effect on Earth of Cold War nuclear bomb tests is only now beginning to be fully understood by scientists. According to recently declassified documents, nuclear weapons tests conducted by the United States and Soviet Union between 1958 and 1962 had an impact on space weather. Nuclear bombs detonated in space created geomagnetic disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field. They also caused electric fields to form on the planet's surface. Some tests even created a layer of charged particles held in place by the Earth's magnetic field called radiation belts. These man-made phenomena caused an aurora to form over the equator rather than at the poles. They also disrupted satellites and caused electrical currents that damaged power grids. Thankfully, America and the USSR stopped chucking nuclear bombs into space more than 50 years ago. According to NASA, this information about man's effect on space weather in the 1960s can hopefully help us better understand what's going on around our planet today.